Hey everyone, so I am real excited because I finally get to talk about the remake of the Toxic Avenger. Now, some of you know I enjoy ridiculous B movies, especially monster comedies like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Bad Taste, or even the original Toxic Avenger, which had 3 sequels and some spin offs. There was a kids' cartoon, video games. Personally, my favorite Toxic Avenger movie was always the second one, where he goes to Japan. But now we have this remake. So this was directed by Macon Blair, and I really wish that I looked him up before watching it because I was surprised to learn that he's directed stuff that I'm familiar with. Like, he directed that movie I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which is one of the few Netflix movies that I actually like. So, firstly, I want to say that I appreciate that this movie is not just a by the numbers remake. Like, the Toxic Avenger is not quite the same character, well, sort of. It's kind of like how with Spider Man, you have Peter Parker and Miles Morales, but they're both still Spider Man. Well, this is basically a movie about a completely different character who transforms into the Toxic Avenger. And I actually like that it tries to do its own thing. I mean, if you're just going to copy the original, then what's the point? First off, the Toxic Avenger never really had a personality in the original films, and this remake tries to expand his personality a bit. In the original, his character was a socially awkward kid named Melvin, and he uses his powers to be a murderous superhero, and that's all there is to say about him. But in this remake, the Toxic Avenger is a single stepfather named Winston who is struggling to make ends meet, and he wants to support his stepson, but all these horrible things just keep on happening to him. And then he gets thrown into toxic waste, and that turns him into the Toxic Avenger. And I honestly liked Winston much more because he's a lot more fleshed out, and I think he's also a pretty relatable character. And of course, the mid credits sequence, which was actually very heartwarming. They really do make you care about the bond between him and his stepson. But I think what's most important is that this remake is really, really funny. I have to admit, when it started, I was a bit worried that it wouldn't be that funny. I mean, one of the first jokes is that there's this guy who keeps getting shot over and over, but instead of dying, he just keeps yelling in pain. And I thought to myself, that's been done 100 times. Like, I saw that on both South Park and The Simpsons, so I thought that joke was a bit old. But then, once Winston turns into the Toxic Avenger, I was laughing my ass off all the way to the end. I cannot remember the last time I laughed this hard in a movie theater. There is just so much crazy stuff that happens in this movie. When I'm in a movie theater, I don't normally start yelling, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" I mean, if you're familiar with this franchise, then you should know what to expect, but that's sort of the joke, is that you never know what to expect. The style of humor reminded me a lot of another movie that I reviewed in the past called Destroy All Neighbors, so if you happen to like that movie, then I recommend watching this as well. The film's animatronics and prosthetic work was also a treat to watch. Toxie's appearance is incredible. I especially love the scenes where his eye pops out of his head. Some of you know that I have mixed feelings on CGI. I can at least respect when it looks good, and even though this remake does have some fake looking CGI, for a movie like this, it's actually kind of appropriate for it to kind of look phony. Though I can understand why it may not appeal to some viewers, it's definitely for a specific audience. It seems like nowadays you have way too many directors who make bad movies on purpose, and I was worried going into this remake because I thought it would be one of those, but thankfully it's not. And also, thank God that this is not some stupid meta comedy, because that's what the Plan 9 remake was, and that movie was horrible. I think some of the best B movies are the ones that still try to be entertaining despite their limitations, and that is ultimately what the Toxic Avenger is all about. You can really tell that they were trying to make something special. However, I do have a couple of criticisms. The biggest one that I have is that the movie feels kind of short. I mean, it is an hour and 40 minutes, but it still just feels like something was missing. I think it might have been the final fight scene that felt a bit short, and I'm not sure if that was intentional, like maybe it was a joke or something. I mean, you have some great fight scenes in the movie. I loved the restaurant fight, and I laughed at the concert fight. They're both really gruesome, like Mortal Kombat levels of gruesome, but the final fight just seemed really tame by comparison. I don't want to say that it was anticlimactic, but I really wish that the finale had pushed the envelope a bit more. I also personally wish the film spent a little more time exploring the town itself. In the original Toxic Avenger movies, the townspeople each had quirky little moments, almost making the town feel like a character of its own. Now, this remake kind of has that charm, but I couldn't help wanting to see more of those touches that bring the town to life, which in this movie, it's not called Tromaville anymore, now it's Saint Roma Village, and that's cool. I mean, again, I like that it's not a carbon copy of the original. This movie is much more centered on the Toxic Avenger himself, so I guess it's a nice little trade-off. I did really love the cast though. Peter Dinklage breathes new life into the character. I've heard critics complain that he does not actually wear the costume and makeup, he only plays the human form, and of course he also voices over the performer in the costume. But it didn't really bother me. I already kind of suspected that he was not going to be wearing the costume. I mean, when he turns into the Toxic Avenger, he's much taller than Peter Dinklage. I think what surprised me was learning that the performer in the costume was actually played by a lady. Her name is Luisa Guerrero. She's the one that you see underneath all the green makeup, and she does a fantastic job as well. The way that she performs as Toxie, it reminded me a lot of like Ron Perlman's Hellboy or the Thing from the 2005 version of Fantastic Four, like this big lumpy character. Kevin Bacon was also real fun as the main antagonist. It's always great to see him still acting in movies. I also liked Taylor Page as the private investigator. She's kind of like the one normal character, and it's funny because she's so disturbed by everything that happens because none of this shit is normal. And then you have Elijah Wood, who plays this Igor type of henchman for Kevin Bacon, and he dresses like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror, and of course Elijah Wood is great in everything he's in. Jacob Tremblay was pretty good as the stepson. Unfortunately, he doesn't get much to do, but he still had some memorable scenes. Then you have David Yao as the crazy homeless guy, which was probably my favorite character. I thought he had some of the funniest lines in the whole movie. And of course, Lloyd Kaufman makes a special cameo. I mean, what would the Toxic Avenger be without him? I'll admit that I can be pretty picky with what I enjoy, but this film leans into its own absurdity with confidence, and that makes it even more entertaining. The characters are engaging, and there's something refreshing about watching a movie that is unapologetically fun without pretending to be anything deeper. And usually I'm not a fan of remakes, so I'm honestly surprised that I wound up loving this movie more than I thought I would. It's also pretty crazy to think that it came very close to not even getting released. It almost ended up getting shelved like the Batgirl movie, which I'm still pissed about that, but I'm just so relieved that the Toxic Avenger remake finally got to see the light of day. My final rating is a 9 out of 10. Despite a few criticisms, I love this movie, and getting to see it up on the big screen was a real special experience. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then stay tuned because I have another special video coming out next week. Anyway, thank you for watching, I'll see you all next time.